Okay, let's get into step two. Now, step two is all about identifying your limiting beliefs. Now, in this step, we're going to delve into the 5 limiting beliefs I typically see my clients struggling with when it comes to building their personal brand. So, these might be things that you are struggling with, and they could also be one of the reasons why you haven't started yet. So, what exactly is a limiting belief? A limiting belief is a false or a negative thought or assumption about yourself or others or the world that prevents you from pursuing your goals or doing things that you want to do. So, some of the ways that a limiting belief can manifest in your life are if you are always apologizing in conversation, if you're worried about what your colleagues or previous colleagues think when you're putting yourself out there. Um, Another one is being uncomfortable talking about your achievements and how great you are, not being able to accept a thank you or a praise, and also not posting something or anything for the fear of being judged by other people. So, if this sounds like you, it's really time to reframe your context, retrain your mind, and set about causing some change. Now, it can be done. So, if we get into these 5 limiting beliefs now, I'm going to start with number one, which is self doubt. This is a demon that I think 99.9% of humans have. I don't know that's an actual stat, but I think it probably is. Yeah, self doubt. Nearly every ambitious human or client of mine that I speak with struggles with self doubt. It happens to me. So, a little story for you. I used to absolutely love public speaking. Then a bad experience sent me into an absolute tailspin of panic attacks every time I had to speak in front of more than a few people. It was wild. I'm not going to bore you with the details because we have limited time, but drop me a DM if it resonates, and I'm happy to share the story. But anyway, after some time had passed, I really pushed myself to go out and do a talk. And it was during a week when I was absolutely riddled with self doubt. And you know what? It was absolutely the most energizing thing that I did all year. I completely rediscovered my love for it. So, challenging myself and tackling my self doubt head on was the one thing that actually made it go away. So, what I found during that talk as well was that talking about my own self doubt resonated so much with the people in the room. So, honestly, it's what it cripples us. It stops us from posting, from raising our hands at work, from so many things. You're questioning yourself. Am I good enough? What will people think of me? Can I actually do this? um, do I live up to these experiences I've put on my CV? Honestly, it's the cause of the majority of limiting beliefs, and your negative belief system, what you tell yourself, it's like a little prison that you keep yourself in. So we need to take positive steps to interrupt that. So you can't, and this is really important, you can't change how you feel in a certain moment, but you can always choose how you act. So confidence is a decision to try. Confidence is just a decision to try something. Self doubt is the decision not to. It's interesting. It's just a decision. So here's 3 practical tips on how you can tackle it. Number one, just consider that self doubt is a decision. It is a decision not to try. So your doubts create mountains in front of you. Your actions are the ones that are going to move them. So the second point is I think you really just have to accept that it's going to ebb and flow. It will go away, it will reappear. But the most important step is to recognize when you are doubting yourself. So you don't get into that tailspin of, oh my God, am I good enough? La, 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 la. All these things that we tell ourselves, you've got to stop in that moment and think, I'm doubting myself. Okay, how can I fix this? How can I reframe it in my mind? So um, just be kind to yourself. When a thought of self doubt comes into your head, ask yourself the opposite. So instead of, oh no, I can't do this, just change that to, but what if I can? What if, oh no, this might not work out, but what if it does? What if it does? And the last point is spend time with supportive people. So this one is pretty self explanatory. Try and surround yourself with people that lift you up, that make you feel good about yourself. Don't hang out with assholes, basically. It can be difficult if someone in your life that you see all the time is a bit of an asshole. But yeah, just limit your time that you can with them. I think when you spend time with people that lift you up, that, point out how great you are when you need it, that's sometimes all you need really to get over the self-doubt. So the second limiting belief is the fear of being judged. Now, this is definitely the number one limiting belief that I see in people that want to develop their personal brand, but they haven't started yet. So the fear of being judged by others, being judged by your family, judged by your friends, judged by your co-workers, judged by people at your old company, judged by people within your community. And you know what? I get it. I get it. It's not a nice feeling. If you've ever heard of someone passing judgment on your life or they've ever said it to your face, it's not a nice feeling. But you've got to move out of your own damn way. So stop worrying about what other people think. Stop limiting your own success because of the judgment of others, and stop letting other people's opinions prevent you from living a bolder life. Now, honestly, when you're worried about being judged by others, 90% of the time, those, or maybe even higher, 99, 95, whatever, it's high. Those people that you're worried about, they're too busy worrying about themselves and what you might be thinking of them to pass judgment on what you're doing. And if they are passing judgment on what you're doing, honestly, who cares? Block them. My immediate instinct when I hear judgment is that either they genuinely don't really know what you're trying to do. So, like your grandma or, Aunt Sally or Susan in accounts, they just don't really understand what you're doing. But more often than not, you living your bolder life shines a light on the fact that whoever is judging you is not, and they don't like it. So, you are the one that's building your brand. You're the one that's building your business and a bigger, bolder life for yourself. So please don't let a fear of being judged stand in your way. It's a fear. It's all it is. The third limiting belief is another fear. It's the fear of failure. So again, I think this is something that we've all had in our lives. The fear of failure is what prevents people from trying new things or from taking risks. Now, trying new things, everybody starts at the beginning when you're trying new things. And then in terms of taking risks, if you don't take risks in life, you can't really grow. You don't really go anywhere. So always, if you're worried about the fear of failure, always ask yourself, but what if I succeed? What if it works? What if it succeeds? And so what if I fail? If you fail, you learn. It's the fastest way to improve. And that is where the gold is. So if you fail, you learn. When you learn, you improve and then you adjust. And it also builds resilience, which is one of the most important and extremely helpful traits when you're building your personal brand. So don't be afraid of the fear of failure. If you fail, you learn. You've just got to get up and dust yourself back off again. Think about, what have I learned from this? What is the lesson? And then use it to improve and adjust and move on. Simple. Sounds simple, doesn't it? So, number 4 is getting out of your comfort zone. Now, one of my favorite sayings, which I recite a lot, is that the walls of your comfort zone are lovingly decorated with your lifelong collection of favorite excuses. That quote is from a lady by Jen Sincero. I'll put her name into the workbook so you can follow up. And she has written a book called You Are a Badass. And she's got other books. You Are a Badass at Making Money. You're a Badass at Creating Habits. But I love the way that she writes. She's hilarious. And this is a quote from her. So I love it because it paints a really pretty picture about how we keep ourselves inside this tiny, tiny little comfort box. And we do it while reciting this big long list of excuses and reasons as to why we can't push ourselves. So things like, I'm too shy, or I can't afford it, or I don't like big crowds, or I don't have the skills for that. It's harsh, but honestly, these are all just excuses which ultimately hold us back from living a bigger life. You've got to stop with the internalized excuses that we tell ourselves that hold us back and keep us in our little comfort zone box. So, I think there's three ways, which are the best ways to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. The first one is say yes. Say yes. If someone offers you an experience or there's something that you really want to do and you get an opportunity to do it, say yes. Do the thing. Do the things. The second one is related to that, and it's not just saying yes to inbound things that are coming into you, but it's trying out new experiences. Seek out new experiences, seek out new things to do, seek out things that are going to put you outside your comfort box, because that is where the growth is. It's outside the box. The third point, and best way to get out of your comfort zone is to just show up. And this is where building your personal brand really kind of comes into its own way there. So show up, show up on social media. So LinkedIn, show up on Instagram, show up at networking events. Networking events has been the biggest thing for me in connecting with people while I've been building my business. So show up, get yourself out there, get out of your own little comfort box. Number 5 is overcoming imposter syndrome. Now, am I familiar with this one? So, do you know what's at the root of all imposter syndrome? The root of all imposter syndrome is the fear of failure. So it links to one of our previous limiting beliefs. The mere thought that we might fail at something is enough to bring on this dear friend of ours, and along with it, feelings of shame, that we don't belong, that we might just not be good enough. Now, there's a tool that we can use to get over this hurdle and just slap that fear back in the face. So it's kind of 3 steps. So step 1 is clarify. Recognize when it creeps in for you. So what situation are you in that gives you imposter syndrome? Is it a person? Is it a specific task that you're asked to do? Is it just being in a new situation where you don't know anyone? You need to just slow right down and identify when you're in a moment where it's happening to you. The second step is choose. So just choose to do it differently. Imposter syndrome is often felt in solitude, so you do feel like you're going through it alone. As soon as you verbalize that, you remove the power from it. So tell someone, phone a friend, speak to a colleague or a mentor. The minute you disarm it by sharing, I guarantee that people can relate, or they will just remind you how bloody great you are and that you can do the thing. So choose to share it, choose to disarm it, choose to remove the power from that moment. Step 3 is create. Imposter syndrome is quite often found on the quest for perfectionism. So I say this to my kids all the time. I say practice makes progress. For us, it's not practice makes perfection, because there is no perfection. It's a lie. It's not a thing. So focus on progress and not perfection. Now, create a narrative of your strengths, and with that, I mean write it down. And come back to it when you need a reminder. So you can also create a dream team of people that you can turn to for support and encouragement. So a friend, a mentor, or a coach who will help you steer the car when you're veering off the road. Now, I have different people in my life that I go to for different things. So I've got my own little dream teams in different areas. But I think the tip of writing down, just in notes on your phone or a piece of paper or a post-it or whatever, just your strengths, write them down so you can remind yourself of what they are whenever you're feeling that moment. So the key really is to just put everything back into perspective. Make sure that a moment of doubt does not control your future actions. So, lastly, I want to talk about shifting to a growth mindset. Now, a growth mindset is the belief that your abilities can be improved through effort, learning, and persistence. It's having an attitude of embracing any challenges, of learning from your failures, and seeing mistakes as an opportunity to grow. So, a growth mindset is the positive steps that you take to tackle your limiting beliefs. So, not being afraid to fail, not being scared of it, embracing criticism, taking it on board, building resilience. So having yourself in those situations where you need to be strong, you need to be stronger to get through it. And then taking time to consider what you've learned and how you can apply it going forward. So I personally think that resilience is absolutely key in all of this. So if you don't feel resilient already, it is something that you can train yourself to be. So when you come up against a challenge, try to reframe it in your mind too. So, what am I learning here? What is this teaching me? How can I grow? You have to constantly ask yourselves those questions. So, a growth mindset is consistently being willing to grow and change. And honestly, change is the only constant in life. So, in your workbook, you'll find your self reminder checklist for developing a growth mindset, which you can keep referring back to anytime that you need it. Embrace challenges, learn from your failures, see mistakes as an opportunity to grow, embrace criticism, and work on building resilience.